I never thought about the universe, it made me feel small. Never thought about the problems of this planet at all. Global warming, radioactive sites, imperialistic wrongs, and animal rights. No!
Hello, welcome. It's episode 8. This is Bill Quinn, and this week we're talking to Babita Patel from the KIOO Project. And the KIOO Project is a photography project that travels around the world and works with students and kids and young people who come from very poor countries, come from really difficult backgrounds, and they work with them on a photography project to certainly learn a new skill, but also to get better at expressing themselves and finding a way to tell their story and the stories of their community. Currently, they have an Indiegogo campaign as well, so if you like the stories, be sure to contribute to that. And with that, here's my interview with Babita. The story I read about how you got started was really interesting, so maybe you can tell me that story.
Yeah, so I'm a humanitarian photographer, which means that I work with nonprofits and NGOs and social enterprises photographing their programs, and one of my clients brings clean water into Cité Soleil. It's a slum in Port-au-Prince in Haiti. And when I was on assignment there a few years ago, I was taking pictures of all these kids playing soccer or football, and they would all come running up to my camera to look at the image on the LCD screen. And this one kid, though, stayed with me for a while, and he was pointing to each face that he saw on the LCD screen, which were all of his friends, and then he came to the last one, which was himself. And he just started kind of giggling and then ran away. And so I talked about it with my client afterwards, and my client had pointed out that, you know, in Cité Soleil, where people live on $1 or $2 a day, they don't own a lot of luxuries, including things like a mirror. So this kid had never seen his reflection before until he saw it on my LCD screen, and he was probably 10 years old. Wow. And so it kind of blew my mind that you could be a 10-year-old walking on this earth and not know who you are and what you look like. And so it made me kind of think of what would happen if kids got cameras. What would they photograph? What would they share? What would they see? What stories would they tell? And so from that, this idea sprung up about giving cameras to kids. And it began with that, of just asking family and friends for some money, and we bought cameras and we bought plane tickets, and we ended up back in Haiti working with 18 child slaves and working on the idea of play, something that unfortunately these kids who have these terrible home life situations don't really get a chance to explore. So that's where we started, and it was such a huge success in terms of the response that the kids got from the experience and the feedback we got from the local community and the school, that we got back to New York, and an organization that builds schools in the slums of Nairobi, Kenya, had contacted us and asked us to run a program with them. So, you know, a year later, off we went again to Kenya, and this time it was around the idea of identity, where, you know, these kids live in and go to school in a slum, and what does that do for them in terms of who they are and the abilities that they have. And so the school was working with the kids on the idea that they can create their own service-based projects, and instead of waiting for, you know, an international organization to come in and give them things, they can go out and solve their own problems. So we started off that curriculum with the idea of identity and looking at what school identity is, community identity, you know, of the slum life that they're exposed to, and even self-identity of who they are. And so again, we had just amazing feedback of the kids and the teachers that were in our program and how they saw their community, and it kind of opened their eyes of how beautiful it is, and yet all the challenges that they have, which is something that they never really focused in on. And then, of course, through this self-portrait assignment, they got a sense of who they are as people. All the girls really got a sense of how beautiful they are, something that they've never seen before. Guys, you know, the boys just take really macho pictures of themselves. And so that was really entertaining to see. So yeah, so that's where we have been thus far in the past 3 years. Oh,
very exciting. So in that time, what have been some of your favorite photographs that students have taken?
There Usually, and it's serendipitous because this happens as photographers where you are trying to capture something and then you either miss the opportunity or something else happens completely unexpected and it ends up being a fantastic picture. I know I'm not supposed to have favorites or anything, but in Haiti there was a kid who was taking a picture of a truck as part of the landscape assignment that was just sitting there on the hill, and this cow that was wandering around just randomly started running and ran in front of the truck. And so the picture is of this cow running in front of a truck. And it's just kind of funny because the cow is in mid gallop. And you never see cows run. You know, they always walk. And yet somehow he just grabbed a picture of the funniest moment of a cow running across the school property. So that was one of my favorites. Another really beautiful one is of this kid Kevin who took pictures of some of the boys in little boys about probably around 2-3 years old in the slum in Kenya, and he was just Kevin was learning about perspective of shooting at different angles, you know, from up high, from eye level, and from down below, and he just put the camera down on the ground and hit the button, and not knowing what he was taking a picture of because he wasn't framing or anything. And the picture ended up being this really gorgeous perspective from the ground of these little kids. And two of them were holding hands, and there's a stream of sunlight kind of coming through on the corner. And it's just gorgeous composition that he really was just playing with and experimenting and happened to get a really beautiful picture. So I love the moments that are, that you're just playing and trying to challenge yourself and just figuring things out. And yet you come across and create this really fantastic moment in a picture. So I love those serendipitous moments. One of the really beautiful stories that came out of Kenya was this girl, Jane. She was taking the pictures the entire week. She was engaged the entire week. And until it came to the self-portrait assignment, she just wasn't taking any pictures. And so I'd gone up to her and asked her if she was okay and what was going on with her, whether or not she wanted to take a picture of herself. And she got these tears in her eyes, turned away from me and said, "No, I'm not beautiful. I'm too ugly to take a picture of." And so, my heart broke to hear a 16-year-old girl say that. And I worked with her for the rest of the session on the idea that when you do something you love, you're beautiful in that moment. And she loved knitting. So, I was like, okay, how do we create knitting on school grounds? And we would take these twigs and long blades of grass and kind of weave them together, and that wasn't working out. It was kind of a bit of a disaster. And so then we just took the blades of grass and started weaving them almost like a friendship bracelet. And she said her favorite color was purple, so we found purple flowers and started weaving that into it. And in the middle of this, I set up the camera and to take pictures of her. And at the end of the whole session, I was like, "Well, how do you feel now?" And she's like, "Oh, I feel beautiful. I feel good." And it felt like she was just saying to basically get me to shut up and leave her alone. I thought she was just kind of tired of me at that point. And the next day, though, was the captioning assignment where they take their favorite picture from every assignment and write a caption. And we as a team kind of figured that her writing about her self-portrait would be the most painful thing for her to do. But she wrote the caption very quietly and then left the classroom. And afterwards, we looked at it. And in it was the most beautifully articulate moment of her expressing, saying that she liked the picture of her knitting because she learned that from her friends that she's beautiful and that she's confident and that she's beautiful just the way she is.
Oh, wow.
So it felt really amazing. It made me cry to read that because I thought that the lesson was a failure the day before because I wasn't sure what her reaction really was. But, a day later, she just wrote this beautiful thing where she realized that she's beautiful just the way she is, and she now walks around with the confidence that she didn't have before, and photography helped her give that to her. So those are some of my favorite moments of serendipitous and yet also working towards a very specific goal.
And you mentioned you're not going to pick favorites, but I'm going to ask you, who are some of your favorite students that you've had?
Jane, she was just blossomed in a way I was not expecting. Even though she was engaged the whole week, she was a little reserved and quiet. And then by the time we had the gallery show after the school, the gallery show at the school, she just blossomed and blew up. And we found out later on, after the workshop was over and the school had to present something to the entire class, every kid would go up there and there'd be a little, snickering or talk in the back of the classroom. That's normal for teenagers. But apparently when Jane went up there, she just walked up there with such confidence, and she read her piece she read her paper out loud, and the entire room was silent. 40 teenagers was silent and just listening to her present her paper. And it speaks to the confidence level that she got, which probably beforehand she would have been someone who had gone up there and done it in a quiet manner so then kids weren't paying attention and kind of being disruptive. But apparently after the workshop, that wasn't the case.
You're working in areas where we're so used to taking pictures all the time, but obviously you're working with people who don't get a chance to take as many pictures and see themselves. Is that kind of frequent, that there's a real quick jolt of excitement and confidence? You find that's common?
Yeah, we see it immediately, throughout the week. We see it building up as we're there, which is always lovely to see, but it's also, we see it in the context of learning a new skill and a treat, as you said, that they're not really exposed to photography, so all of a sudden they get this new fun toy, for lack of a better way of putting it. So we see it immediately when we're there, but that's obviously not translatable to everyday life, So then that's when we rely on our local partner to give us feedback and see what the response is. And we've had that in both of our programs, where the school has come back and told us stories like Jane, who got confident when she was presenting her paper to the class after the workshop. And even in Haiti with the kids there, we had one of the school administrators respond to us and tell us that she's noticed the difference in confidence of just the kids even walking around the school campus.
Wow.
So it's different immediately in that way. Even it's not always just in presentation skills. They just walk around with this extra boost of self-esteem. That, and something that we know in the Western world that arts education gives us, but in countries where that's not a priority in their education system, it's something that's lacking. And then I guess when they get it, it's very obvious.
And I meant to ask you this earlier. Are these pictures, so if someone's listening and they want to see some of the pictures you're talking about, are they online? Are they accessible?
Yeah, so on our website, KIOOproject.org, we have a shop page. And so we sell some of the best sellers, as we put it, on our website because, in Kenya alone, the kids took 12,000 pictures. So we don't put all 12,000 online.
Right.
Yeah, and we also have gallery shows in New York and in LA, where we also sell the pictures as a fundraising tool for our next workshop.
I'm sure people would be interested in the idea of going to see this in a gallery. So are there any shows coming up, and do you have any future trips to other places coming up?
Yeah, we're actually really excited because we're in the middle of planning it, and we are actually going to India in November. And we're excited because we are changing our program model a little bit based on the feedback from Haiti and Kenya. So in India, we're going to work with kids from the Dalit caste, which are known as the untouchables in India, and we're going to work on gender equality. So we're expanding the workshop from 1 week to 2 weeks, and the first week we're going to work with just the girls. And the second week, when boys join the workshop, because we don't want to leave one gender out of the equation for whatever reason, but when boys join the second week, the girls will actually be the ones to teach them photography.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way of seeing how girls can immediately gain confidence through leadership and presentation skills. Boys also learn photography, but they learn it from a peer who happens to be a girl. So hopefully this translates into him seeing the value and worth of a girl in his community. And, long-term benefits would be hopefully that he sees that in not only his mother and his sister, but eventually one day his wife and his daughter. So we're kind of creating a different kind of program with India, and that we're going to there in November. And right now we're actually in the middle of our fundraising campaign. So we have an Indiegogo campaign that's going to run for about 2 more weeks. And then the gallery show that we'll have for India will happen next spring. After the winter months of snow season here in New York, we're going to bring in spring with a show of a gallery show exhibiting all the kids' work.
Oh, okay. That's really exciting. I guess it's only less than 2 months away now at this point, right?
Yes, last night actually the team got together and we went through our curriculum and our rundown and all the different kind of group discussions we'll have with the kids, which will be really interesting because while the first week, the team huddles at the end of the day would be from the KIOO team of seeing what was good and what worked and what didn't work during the day and what we can iterate for the next day. We're excited that the second week will be actually team huddling with the girls because they'll be the leaders and presenters and teachers. So it's going to be a really interesting mix for us.
Well, it sounds like everything's going to work out really well. I think it's such a smart idea to have the girls teaching the boys. That I think it's really clever. So best of luck. Thank you very much for taking some time with me today. And best of luck with the campaign, with the trip. And I look forward to coming to see the gallery in the spring.
I can't wait to have you there. Thank you so much.
So anyone who knows me knows that I'm not the most organized person in the world, and I totally forgot to ask Babita a question. She was really nice enough to not only answer it, but record it and send it to me well after the interview. And so the question was, if someone's inspired by the work that you're doing and they want to do something similar, what advice would you have for them? And this is what she said.
I tell people who want to start their own venture just to do it. Don't wait till it's all perfect and finalized and your idea is thought through from beginning to end, because frankly, you'll never start. Your idea will never get off the ground. The whole point of something new and exciting is to try it out and then to evaluate and reiterate and go back and do it again and, solve new problems. When I went off to Haiti for the first time, I just did it just to see what would happen. And every workshop that we've done after that has been a iteration of the first one, the previous one, with new tweaks, with changes to the plan that what would make it stronger and better and different, something that we forgot the first time, something that we would like to add. And then we try it again and, see if it succeeds or fails. And then the workshop after that will be a different one. So don't fear it, just to go out and do it. Otherwise, it will be an idea that stays inside your brain, kicking around till the end of time. So just go out and do it and be excited about what the possibilities are and don't have any expectations. Just try it out. Good luck.
And that's it. Huge thank you to Babita Patel for coming on and being patient as I dealt with some technical issues, and then sending me her answer to a question that I totally forgot to ask. Also, another huge thank you to Julia Firestone, who is supporting the podcast, and she connected me to Babita, and so I really want to thank her for doing that. This episode would have not happened if it weren't for her. Also, if you like KIOO and the work that Babita and her group is doing, be sure to fund them and support them on Indiegogo, and you can find the links on my website. If you like that and you want news about upcoming episodes, be sure to follow us on Twitter @BQuinnPodcast and like us on Facebook. You can also check out old episodes on the website at BillQuinnPodcast.blogspot.com. And you can also contact me if you know an organization or you work for an organization that would be a great fit for the podcast. And with that, see you next time.
There was this one boy, and I know I'm not supposed to have favorites or anything, but do you need me to repeat that?
It's okay. Yeah, I can edit this out. So if you want to start that sentence over again, you can.
So I know. So in Haiti, sorry.